Thanks everyone for joining us today for today's Quick Learn webinar on the top 5 CMS questions and answers. My name is Susie Johannes, and with me I have Tennille Fincham. We're the two technology instructors that work here at KUIT. I provide CMS classes, the basics class, and as well Susan Patton from our web services department, who isn't pictured here, she also offers those classes. I just want to talk a little bit about today's session and the format. If you haven't been a part of one of these quick learn sessions, what we're trying to do with these webinars is focus on one topic. So today we're going to be talking specifically about KU's website content management system. We are recording this session, and as part of the wrap-up, I'll be posting the recording on our Quick Learns page on the IT website. So you'll be able to review it there, or if you want to send it to anyone, you can send them to that page once it's up. And then if you have any questions, we're going to ask that you submit those through the chat. I'll try to take breaks periodically for questions, but you're welcome to submit them anytime. Tennille's going to be monitoring that chat window so that and bring my attention if there's questions there. And for any questions I don't have the answer to, I will follow up with everyone after the class is over, and I'll track down those answers. Just a few meeting tips for the Skype for Business meeting space. It's a good idea to maximize your window for the best viewing results. So in order to see my screen as large as possible, you may want to maximize the overall window with the meeting. You guys are all muted at this point, but it's a good idea to keep yourself muted to cut down on feedback. If you do have a question, we're asking that you click on the little chat instant message icon in the bottom left to submit the question there, and then we'll pause and try to answer those. And then finally, in the upper right corner of the window, you may have some other view options depending on if you're using the browser or the desktop software. So just keep an eye on that. You may be able to make the presentation even larger if needed. All right, so today we're going to first start just with a quick overview of what the CMS is, and then we're going to get into the top 5 questions and answers. And so I spoke with our web services department, and we kind of outlined them as these. So we're going to talk about overall menus, which is also referred to as the navigation, best practices for adding links to the menu or the navigation, and I'll show you kind of exactly what I mean as we do that. And then we're going to talk about person profile pages, how to create a page that lists a grouping of people, and then how to add people to the list. Same thing with slideshows. We're going to talk about how to add a slideshow to a page, and then I'll show you how to do that, and then also how to add the slide to the slideshow. We'll look at degrees, setting up a degree program, and then adding the individual degrees to the degree program. And then finally, we'll end with tabs and accordions with some general guidance and how to add those. Okay, so just a few slides to start with about the CMS. So CMS stands for Content Management System, and it's the overall industry term for the kind of system that's in place for our websites. Our website CMS at KU was launched in 2012, and it uses the open source system Drupal. There are other open source systems out there. You might be familiar with WordPress or Joomla. Drupal is a different kind of open source system, and that's what we use here at KU. And so for us, if you haven't logged in ever before, it makes it easy to create pages, edit pages, and manage a website without having to know any HTML. And for our marketing department, it's nice for them because they can make all of our websites look like we all belong to the same university. And then for our web development staff, it's nice for them because they can focus on more exciting web development projects, and they don't have to do the day-to-day work updating and creating web pages. If you haven't been through it before, or if you're needing to request a new site, there is a specific process for that. The first step is to request the site itself. And so I want to show you where you go to do that. So on the CMS site, which is the site that houses all the how-to information for the CMS, there's a button right here on the right that says Request a CMS account. Now, in order to actually request the CMS account, you have to fill out this form. And one thing the form asks is for you to attend the Drupal site administrator training. And so if you haven't attended that training, you can find times for it here on the CMS site. It's right here on the sidebar, and then the link will take you to the sign-in page on workshops.ku.edu. So there is that one step before you can request an account, but basically you fill out this form and then they'll email you. They ask for 2 to 3 days to set it up, and they'll send you your development site. Now, while the site's in development, you can build it out. So you'll create your pages, you'll add them to the navigation if you want to, that type of thing. Once you're done doing that, the next step is to request approval, and you can do that right back here on the CMS site as well. So there's a button over here, Request CMS Approval, and for that, it'll ask you some different questions. These questions here that it asks you are all in line with on the help site. There's an area called requirements. So here are the things that they're asking you about, and these are the things that they'll look for when they review your site. The people who review your site are members of marketing communications and KUIT. And like I said, what they're looking for is this. So either they'll respond and they'll say, it looks great, it's approved, when do you want to go live? Or they'll say, here's a list of things we'd like to see changed that are in line with those best practices or requirements. Sorry about that. And then last, it's just up to you to maintain after that. So we won't go through again and review your site unless you specifically ask our web services department to. But at that point, it's just kind of yours to maintain. The CMS does have several different roles. Here I have a table with the different roles. For today's purposes, I'll be acting as an editor. And so editors can create pages, edit pages, and publish them. They can also upload files, create web forms, create and edit blocks, which are usually considered those sidebar items, but they can be other things within the actual page. Editors, as we'll see here today, can edit the navigation and the menu. And then there are 2 other roles. One role is contributor. They have less permissions. So contributors, sometimes I'll see students put in that role. They can create pages, edit pages, but they can't publish. So they would probably signal to an editor when a page was ready to review, and then the editor would come around or a site admin could come around and review the page and publish it. Site admin have more permissions. So site admin, people with that permission can add people and actually set permissions for others, and also make site-wide changes. So if you want to change the title, or there's even a subtitle for your site admin can do that. You can have multiple site admin, and it's probably a good idea to have more than one in case that person is out of the office or something like that. I'll also note that there is a role that's even higher than this that's reserved for members of KUIT and marketing communications. And with that, they're able to get into any site in order to help with support, or if there'd be an emergency, they could help edit a page or something like that. Okay. So generally speaking, just to set this whole thing up, if you had never done this before, what you would want to do is, you'd want to make sure you'd been assigned permissions by your site's owner or admin. So you probably would ask around your office to find out who that person is, or we could always track it down for you. And then what you would do is within a web browser, you would navigate to your site. Once you get to the site to sign in, you'll click in the upper right-hand corner on KU Directory, and then follow that down and click on KU Users. And there you'd be able to log in with your online ID and password. So here I'll show you an example. I've signed into one of our training sites here. And so when I got to this site, I just clicked on that KU Directory. Down here I had the option KU User click there, and then I could sign in. If I ever wanted to like purposely log out, I could click there and log out, or there's a log out button up here. Okay, so let's talk about the first of the top 5 questions. The first one is working with menus. And menus I'm using interchangeably with the word navigation. So the big guideline here is that with the exception of the first level links, or the first level of navigation and the degrees page, all other menu links are created by creating pages and placing them under other pages or links. So I'll show you what that looks like, but the first level is the only level of navigation that is actually set up in the menus panel, and they have a direction, or when it shows where to link to, they have this special characters here that's in brackets, no link. And so what happens with that is when you click on one of those first level links, it just defaults to the first page below. Just some best practices, and we'll look at this as we go. Don't include a menu link that actually points to another page under another section. So it's important that your users be able to kind of trace their steps back in the navigation if possible. And also keep an eye on the number and the length of your menu items. So there is a set kind of limit. I don't know exactly what it is, but after a certain number of characters, your menu will no longer fit in the allotted area. So let's take a look at this site and kind of see this in practice. Sorry about this. One thing to note, if I had logged in here and I didn't see the black bar or the gray bar or any of these tabbed areas, what that would mean is just that I hadn't been assigned any permissions. So technically, anyone with a KU Online ID can sign in to any site using the steps I showed you. Only when they sign in, if they don't have any permissions, they won't see the black bar here that has all the menu items or the gray bar here that has the shortcuts. So at that point, I would have to talk to a site admin, and they would have to find me and check some boxes to assign me the proper permissions. So here in our site, we have, this is what I'm referring to as the first level navigation. And for many sites, this already includes some of these default links. So usually there'll be an About Us, Academics, Admissions, People, and Resources. I've added a very important topic on something here earlier. Once you click on a first level link, you see the second level here below. And like I mentioned, it'll default to the first page that's placed underneath there. So in this case, it's degrees. If I went to admission, oh, there's nothing under admission. If I went to About Us, the first page is the contact. So that's the contact page. So that's what you'd see. So I want to talk about first just adding a link here to the second level, or even we'll see here with, let's see, I have one in resources. Sorry. So here we have our second level, and then here we have the beginning of a third level navigation. So this navigation here and this navigation, they were both created by actually creating a page for each one of these elements and then placing it under whatever is above it that's referred to as the parent. So here I have an example page here on the second level. I'm going to add a page below it, and it's going to start to create that third level. So to do this, I'm just going to come here and say add content. That's going to be where I start to create a new page. And then I'm going to choose the general content page. That's what you're going to use probably 95% of the time. It's just a basic page that has an area for the title and then the body. So here I'm going to say example of a page that will create a third level link. And I'm making it long specifically for a reason. So here I'll just put a basic something goes here. I don't need to, but I'll put that. Okay, so to actually add this to the navigation, you'll find that option at the lower section of this page. And to see the option to put it in the menu or the navigation, I actually have to click this box first. So here, when I have this really long page title, by default, that page title is going to be the link in the navigation. So in this case, if I have something long like this, I may want to shorten it in the navigation so that it's not so long. The other thing I might want to do here is well, the other thing I will want to do here is define the parent item. So the parent item is going to be the link or the page directly above where I want this to live. So in this case, I was going to put it under the example page. Finally, the other thing that's here that sometimes you could pay attention to is the weight. The weight is just one way to order the links in the navigation, but I'm going to show you a more visual and intuitive way. So I'm going to have us leave that at 0. So here I'm going to click Save, and I'm just going to get a little preview of what's on my page. Now when I click Save, this page isn't live yet. It isn't public, and I can tell that because it's pink behind the page, and then over here it says Draft. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say Published, and then click Apply, and then I'll actually see it in the navigation. So here I have the link third level example. It's placed directly under example, and it starts to create that third level. So if I were to create another page and also put it under example, it would appear here below. You can include a fourth level that's here below. Depending on how large your site is, that might be something that you do. Now, in the case of the first level here, I want to show you that more intuitive way to view your navigation, and that will also bring us to how to create or edit the first level. So here, if I want to visually see the navigation, I can click on Structure, and then click on Menus, and then here beside the main menu, I can click on List Links. So here I see a visual list of everything that's in the site's navigation. Everything all the way to the left, that's my first level. The next indent in, that's my second level navigation. And then I have a third level and even a fourth level here for my different degree programs. Now one thing just to do with reordering, what's kind of nice about this is that you can drag to some extent and drop your first level navigation, or sorry, you can drag and drop your different menu items and reorder them. You can also, to some extent, demote and promote pages, and for those you'd probably only want to do that with your second and third level or fourth level. So if I want to make this third level example now a second level, I can just drag that out there and do that. If I were to do that, I would just want to make sure I save the configuration when I'm done. Now the reason I said probably not best to drag this out to, or try to drag it to the first level, is because here you may be able to see the first level links are a little bit different than all the other links. And you can see that here they show up in black text, whereas these other ones show up in blue. And so just to take a look here, if we look at one of these regular pages on their second or third level link, and we click Edit, behind the scenes we see that it's pointing to the node, which is the technical kind of distinction of what that page is. So this is a second level link. You'll notice the path is actually pointing to something. If we go back to one of those first level links, I'm going to go to this resources one. Here we'll see the path says no link. And if you ever need to set one of these up, there is some helpful text below that kind of tells you what this is. But with a no link, that is how all the first level links are set up. And like I mentioned, it will just default down to your first page underneath. So here I'm just going to click Save. So because the site comes with some of these by default, maybe the first step if you'd want to change these, so maybe your department doesn't have academic programs, probably one of the easier things to do is just edit this and change the word academics to what you want it to be. However, if you needed to set up another link, and this would be just for the first level, you could come here and say add link. I'm going to try to make this one long, so a really long link title goes here just to see what happens. And again, because I'm using the example of a first level link, I'm going to put no link here. Here, all these default settings are fine. This is going to be under the top level, so it's going to be a first level link, and I'll click save. So I will see that menu item. It'll appear at the bottom here, and then to get a preview, I can just click on the home icon. So I haven't run out of space yet. If I were to add another link, this would kind of break this navigation and it would start to pop down over here. So it's important, you only have so much real estate here to stay mindful of how many links you really can have to fit within this space. Okay, so questions there about the menu? Cool, I'll keep going. I'm going to go to next the people profile pages. So the people pages and the slideshows work in a similar way, and they're usually a little bit confusing to people when they first start off with the CMS. Here I have just a screenshot of what a page looks like that would have maybe like a list or a directory of people. If you were to actually go to edit this page, however, and you would click on new draft to do that, what we would see is we wouldn't see any of those people on the behind the scenes view. We would just see this piece of code. And the code, where you find that is from the CMS site. So this actual page here where the people show up, that's probably a general content page or something like that, just a really basic page. And then the code has been, copied and pasted onto the page. Now with the code, you have, it's showing here what to bring in. So this is like a people list. The big thing to pay attention to is whatever word is after the equal sign. That's referred to as the keyword or the tag, and that is how the individual people profile pages get into this page. So in this case, the default, if I were to copy and paste that, just says equals tags. However, you can replace that with whatever this page is supposed to be. So you could have one, if it was a staff page, you could say equals staff. You could say equals faculty if it was a faculty page. Equals emeritus if you're going to have emeritus people there. GTA, these are just examples. You can basically make up whatever keyword makes the most sense to follow that equal sign. So I'm going to set one of these up, and then I'm going to actually add a person to the page, and I'll show you kind of how to go about that. So here in the development site, I do have this area for people. So let's say I wanted to include another page here that maybe said GTAs. So in that case, I would come up here to add content. And here, what's confusing usually is that there is this person profile down here. But for this very first step, when you're just putting a list on a page, most likely you're just going to use the general content page. So here, I'm going to say general content page. I'm going to call it GTAs. And then here in the body, that's where I need to go to look for the code for the people page. And here, I actually pulled up the page on the CMS site. If I scroll down, I know it's right here. So I'm just going to copy that. And then the tip or trick here, I'm going to switch to plain text editor and just paste this into the source code for the page. So I just did that. It looks like that. That's going to be great. I am going to change this keyword though so that this will be GTAs. And I'm just going to make it lowercase. So with that, I've just added the code as the first step. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the menu just so we can see it there. So it's going to say GTAs, and then I'm going to look for the parent page is going to be people. So here I can say save. I'll see a preview here of what it looks like. So far nothing's been added to it. Again, this is just a draft. I'll need to come here, say published, and then applied. All right, so I have that there. Now to actually add someone, that's when we come up here to add content. And then down here we say person profile. So for each individual person, you will create a new person profile page. So here for the page title, I'm just going to put my name. Now, if I were a faculty member and I had put my information in Faculty Pro, and if a site administrator had enabled Faculty Pro on my site, I could just import that information from that system by clicking here, yes, and then searching for my listing. In this case, I am just a staff member, so I'm just going to fill in some basic information here. There are a lot of different areas here to fill in information, so you probably just want to stay consistent with whatever you have for your other listings. So there's personal info with several tabs across the top. There's bio publications with several tabs across the top. All right. And then the key to this whole thing is right here in the tags box. So here's where I need to have remembered that I included that tag as GTAs. So I'll type that in there. Now, if I want people to appear in alphabetical order, I'm just going to leave this as is. If I had a specific order that I wanted my listings to appear in, I could number them this way and have them appear in that order. So with that, I have that done. I'm going to click save. I'll just see a preview. And then I'll publish it. So here is just a basic page for this person. If I want to actually see it on that page, I'll go to people, I'll click on GTAs, and then I'll see it now on that page because I gave this person the right keyword. Now, in most cases, you might just be adding someone to a page. So in that case, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to the page first where you want them to appear, and then click on the New Draft tab here to see behind the scenes of the page. And what you're looking for again is just that code there, and you're just going to take note of whatever is after the equal sign. So now if I want to add someone to this page, I can just add them by including that keyword. So I could come up here and say add, person profile, add the person that way. Just do that. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in that tag now while I have it open. In this case, it is a faculty member, so I just have one in mind. I'll just pull in. And then I'll come down here. So all I did was say, yes, I wanted to use Faculty Pro. I looked for the person, and I just selected all the information to pull from Faculty Pro. Then I'll come down here, say published, and then save. That will just save me a step in publishing this. So I see this new listing here. If I click on people, I see that Lance was added to the faculty page, and here it's showing in alphabetical order because I didn't mess with the weight. So questions there about people profile pages. So what I did is I showed you kind of how to insert that tag onto a page if you'd want to start from scratch, editing that keyword or that tag to make sense with the page for what it is, and then how to then create a profile page or a person profile page for each person. Cool. I'm going to keep going, and we're going to go into slideshows next. And I will send these slides in the follow-up, so you will have the instructions and the animations and stuff that I have here in case you want to review it. With the slideshows, it's a similar thing as the people profile pages. So on the page where the slideshow appears, if you were to click on New Draft and actually look behind the scenes, all you would see is a code for the slideshow, and what you'd want to pay attention to again is whatever's after the equal sign. So this tag here is what I'll use in order to bring the individual slides into this slideshow. I could have multiple slideshows on my site. I would just manually kind of create a different tag for each one, and that's how I could make it so some slides pulled in to certain slideshows. On the actual pages where the slideshow would appear, it could be the home page content type, in other words, page template, or it could just be a general content page. And then last, like you'll see me do here, that code can be found on the cms.ku.edu site. All right, so I'm going to start from scratch here and just add a slideshow. I'm going to say add content, and I'm just going to choose that general content page. It's the most basic kind of page. Here, I'm just going to do Susie's sample slideshow as the example. And then here in the body, I have to go and find the code for the slideshow. So here's the page on the CMS site. I just opened it up ahead of time, and then I know that that code is at the end of the page. So I'm just going to select that, copy it, and then again, the tip or trick here, I'm just going to click on Switch to Plain Text Editor so that I can paste that into the source code. Now, I'll probably want to change this keyword or this tag so that it makes sense with this page. So I'm just going to call it sample. I'll call it test sample. Oops. All right. So let's go ahead and put it in the menu or in the navigation again. And we'll put it under resources. And then I'm going to come down to publishing options. I'm going to say published and then save just to save that step. All right, so I have nothing appearing here. Now I need to actually add my image to the slideshow. So to do that, I come up here to add content, and this is where I come down and I choose slide gallery image 2013 version. So in the case of the slideshow, for every individual image, you're going to create a new page using the slide gallery image type. So I'm just going to say Susie's slide 1. You'd want to give actual names here. I'm going to choose my test sample. For my slider image, I'm going to choose a file, and I've just set up a couple here. Say upload. You'll always want to include alternate text describing what your picture is for anyone using an alternative screen reading technology. If I wanted to make the whole slideshow image a link to someplace, so maybe I'll make it here, I could just paste in that link there. Or in addition, I could say, see how to create slideshows here. I'd probably do something like this. So what I did is I selected the words here, I came to the link button, I chose the URL link type to link to another place, and then pasted it there just to make those words a hyperlink within the text. Here I have different caption styles. I'm going to leave it as the default. And then I have a weight here. Now the weight works is one way you can order your slides. So this works on a scale of -50 to +50, with -50 being all the way to the left and +50 being all the way to the right. If you don't put anything in here, they should appear in the order that they're published. So I'm just going to leave this as 0. I'm going to come down here and say published. So when I see this page, it's just going to be the page for the slideshow image, which won't actually be anything that most people will see. To actually see the slideshow, I'll have to navigate to the page that I put the slideshow on. So I'll come up here to Resources, Susie's Sample Slideshow, and now you can see my slideshow. It's just got one little image here. Now, probably a more likely case is that you'll just be adding one slideshow image or one slide to to an existing slideshow. So let me just walk you through how you would do that. What you would do is you would basically go to the page where the slideshow appears, and then you'd want to click on the New Draft tab. And what you're doing is kind of like we did with the people profile. We want to just find the slideshow and take note of that tag or that keyword that's after the equal sign. Once we know what that keyword or tag is, then we can come up here to add content, and we can choose slide gallery image to create a new page for our new image. So here, the big thing here is in the slider gallery tag, this is where we have to remember slideshow. Now this could have been called homepage. That probably would have been maybe better so that we knew this was the homepage slideshow, but this will work fine. Now I'm going to upload another image, but I did want to point out one key thing here is that all of your slideshow images are the same size. And so beforehand, if you needed to know what size that was, when we go to upload these slideshow images, it goes to this folder called Slideshow under the Images folder that's in the file browser for this site. So here's where I might go and just say, it looks like these should be 820 by 488, and mine might be a little bit off here. But usually it's important to make sure that they're all the same size. In this case, I'm going to say choose file. I'm just going to choose one of my ones that I created and say upload. I'm just going to use my old stuff, and I won't go through everything else. I'll just leave it as the default. I'm just going to come down here and publish. So the main things there is just that I gave it a title, I put the tag in, and I added an image. So I see it here. That's just the page for the slide. Now I come back to the slideshow, and I should see it here. Yeah, so there it is. So my slideshow images are actually a little bit off, but it's just going to fit them in. Now, the one thing that's kind of bad if your slideshow images are not the same dimensions is you'll see this kind of jumps. Your page jumps up and down when it cycles between. So that's why it's important to have all of the slideshow images the same size. Questions there about slideshows? One thing I will mention before we move on is that with your slideshows, you may, when you get done with a slide, you may want to just simply unpublish the slide rather than delete it. And you can find those options under Find Content. That's where you'll get a list of every page that's been added to your site, including the individual pages for every image or slideshow image. And so here, if I also wanted to find them this way, I could say slide gallery image, I could say apply, and I could filter the list just to the slide images. So here, if I wanted to get rid of one of my past slides, I could come over here and click delete, but I may want to just unpublish this so that I could reuse that maybe later, like a year from now or next semester. One way you can do that is here by clicking on the checkbox beside the slide or beside the page. Under Operations, you'll choose Unpublish, and then you'll choose this Execute button. So what that will do, it'll keep my page as a part of the site, or my slide image in this case, but it'll just unpublish it so it's no longer viewable. So now if I went to my home page, I wouldn't have, I think that was like the Jayhawk one maybe on my site. Okay. All right, so degrees are generally the area that causes the most confusion. With degrees, there's two different content types that are related to degrees. There's degree, add a degree, and degree general content. And so if you were setting up a completely new degree program, what you would need to know is that you have to add them in the order you see here. So the first one is the first one listed. You would click on add a degree, you would fill out the general information, and then for each individual degree program, like bachelor's, master's, PhD, you would add that after you'd set up the general degree. So I'll show you that. Also, I want to point out that the page that the degrees have show up on should already be set up for your site. So let me show you what I mean by that. So on this site here under academics, there's this page called degrees, and it's usually your site's title / degrees. So unlike the people profile pages and the slideshows, to get this general listing of degrees, I don't have to actually create that or copy and paste any code. That's already been done by default. I do, however, have to set up the programs using the two special degree content types. And so to do that, I'll set up a new degree program. I'll come up here to add content. And so here, those are the two content types or page types: degree, add a degree, and degree general content. So if I'm starting from scratch, I first have to say degree, add a degree. So this is going to be something general like strategic communications. And so here, this would be information about the general strategic communications department or program. I scroll down here, I have my different degree types. So you could spell out bachelor's, master's, that thing, that kind of thing. You could also do the, the acronym or whatever for it. You probably just want to stay consistent with what you have here. And the reason why I'm getting these options show up is because that's what I've used before. So it's helping me stay consistent. You do have the option of uploading a few images here. I'm just going to do this one degree image. It tells you what size it needs to be, and I've just created a blue box so you can see what that will look like. Order of appearance is if I'd want to order this in a certain way besides alphabetical. Here I'm just going to leave it showing up in alphabetical. So we'll come down here, we'll say publishing options and published. So now I have my general degree here. This looks a little bit funky because this is just the page. In order to have this appear correctly, I now would need to set up the bachelor's and the master's individual degrees. So I'll just do one of these. I'm going to come up here to add content. I'm going to say degree general content, and then here I'll say maybe like strategic communications, bachelor's. Here I'll say degree, I'll pick the strategic communications degree type, I'll choose bachelor's, and then info about BA in Stratcom. Okay. The big thing here is once you've done that, the last step is you actually have to make it a menu link, and you have to put the menu link under as the parent item as the program. So here, this is the bachelor's for strategic communication. So I need to choose bachelor's there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and publish this so we can see it. So now I have strategic communications bachelor's and then the information about the BA in Stratcom. So here on my main page, I'll see my main listings. And there it put it in alphabetical order, strategic communications, and then I can click on bachelor's and it will go to that page. Before, I had actually set this up as an example and it wasn't pointing to this, and that's because I forgot that very last step, which is making it menu item and making the parent the program that you've set up. So hopefully you won't have too many of those to set up because they can be a little bit challenging. If you do have questions about those when you get to them, you're welcome to always contact us and we can help you set them up. Most likely, if you're just adding things to a degree, you would probably just want to come here to find content, and then you would just probably just want to find, let me reset that. Just find, like your degree program, edit it. Maybe you would want to add a PhD here. And then, you just edit what you already have here and publish it. And then again, for your individual degrees, that's going to be the second one listed here, degree general content. So that's going to be your bachelor's, your master's, or your PhD programs. Questions there about degrees? All right, quiet bunch today. All right, so the last one here are tabs and accordions. So generally, tabs and accordions are used when the page is really long or the navigation is already several layers deep, and they're usually used to add another level of organization or navigation. In order to use either tabs or accordions, you have to be familiar with HTML, and so you have to not only be comfortable with HTML when you insert it in the first place, but for all of your updates, the person who updates it is going to have to be familiar with HTML, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. The other thing to note here is that when your accordion is collapsed, the text is hidden, and so if anyone was to do like a Control F in the browser, they couldn't actually search for a term that's collapsed in or hidden by the accordion. And I'll show you what that looks like. So best practices, it's kind of funny here. I say, best to avoid if possible. So some options there are just to break out the information into separate pages instead of trying to use a tab or an accordion. The tabs and accordions can, it's not always something that's optional, so I will show you how to set them up, but if you can work around them, it's probably actually will be a better experience for both your editors and possibly even your audience, your website's audience. So let me show you what I mean by tab or accordion. And we have the tabs and the accordions codes on the CMS site. That's where I'm going to go when we set one of these up. So here under tabs, we see here, this is an example of rounded tabs. So within the page, you can click on the tabs and this content updates to be whatever is stored under that tab. And then this is an example, looks the same, but these are square. So two different kind of styles here. Now, if we wanted to actually add this to a page, we could come up here to add content. I'm just going to use one of those general content pages again. Let's say another example of tabs. When we get to the body here, that's where we have to go looking for the tags. So here, my suggestion here is just to search for tabs. It is going to be hidden under, so here we see tab navigation. It's going to be under right now the widgets page. And so here we have the instructions listed out step by step. What I'm going to do is just copy the text from the last step. I'll go in here, and again, I'm going to switch to the plain text editor, to the source code, and just paste that in here. So what I'd have to know here is that these are tags, and so in between these anchor brackets, that's where the actual titles of my tabs are going to go. So this will be title of tab 1 if I was going to change that. title of tab 2, title of tab 3. And so then if I wanted to add the actual content in, I would have to replace what's here in between these div tags. So this is part of the challenge of it, is that not only do I have to do this now, but if I ever needed to come here and update this, if I just see the page like this, I can't actually get into these tabs. So in order to actually edit them, I'd always have to go here and do it in the HTML, which for some people will be prohibitive. So I'm just going to leave it like this. I'll go ahead and put it in the menu link or the navigation below my tabs page, and we'll publish. We'll see what that looks like. Cool. So here, another example of a tab. I have my different tabs that I set up. So it kind of looks like a cool effect. And again, like if you had a really deep site structure, this may be something that you needed to do. If I wanted to get around this, what I might do is instead just create a 4th level of navigation and put it under here, or put it at the same level as the 3rd and just order them sequentially or something like that. The same thing's going to be true with accordions. So here on the CMS site, there's just another help page called accordions. And so what accordions look like, you can expand them like this, and they're just kind of like collapsed by default. So in order to create an accordion, at least initially till you get the hang of things, you may want to come here, just copy the code that's here. And then what we'll do, I'll just put them on the same page here. Again, you're going to want to go into the source code, and I'll just put it here at the end. Whatever goes in the first set of div tags is going to be the heading that's viewable. And then, like it says here, the content that you want shown when it expands goes here. So let's just publish this and see. So again, I have that there. Now the thing I mentioned here, the word expand was in that page, but if I came here and just did a Control F to try to search, I wouldn't see that word show up. So something to note there, that could be prohibitive if you have users who are like searching in the page for like FAQs and things like that. And some of the stuff with tabs and FAQs is possibly going to change over the next year. So just because it's like this today doesn't mean it will be like this in like 3 months from now, or something like that. So with that, I'm kind of reaching the end of the session today. I will send out a follow-up with a link to the video. We do have sessions. We have a basics workshop on the CMS. We also do desk-side coaching if you want help with stuff like that, or if you have a very specific thing. Maybe our web services department would be the department that would meet with you to figure out how to get that done. Our other upcoming quick learns are, the next one in 2 weeks will be mail merge for Word and Outlook. We're going to do a basic setup of My Community team sites, and then we're going to do an Excel project step by step still in the spring.